Hi, I'm Yapo. Welcome back to half two of week one of the Blood Bowl League. With me again is Forsooth.
All right, this time you're receiving.
Yep, because I kicked in the first half. And I didn't go over the KOs and stuff again, but Sven the Bestest Berserker is still out, and Random has a lineman, I believe, out. So, a little bit in his favor, just because of the players I have out, but not enough to cause any serious issues. And since my plan here is to do kind of a slower touchdown, I'm not going to go down one side. I'm going to do a lot more conservative ball handling here.
Yeah, now you have 8 turns to grind a touchdown as opposed to 4 like last time.
So it's less exciting than ball scattering everywhere and having to punch guys all the time, but it's a lot less stress inducing as well.
Yeah, if you wanted to see failure, you would have voted for vampires.
Or Kimray. God, Kimray. Never pick up a ball, ever.
Every now and then you'll luck out and roll +2 agility on some random skeleton, but that's fairly unlikely. So.
Also, I would like to note, Odin, you glad I have 3 agility. We got the first touchdown for this team. He's
making him all the more valuable dead.
He is a true hero. So far, he's the MVP of this match. Although not the actual game MVP, because the game loves giving MVPs to people who are dead.
Well, I would argue that they were, in fact, the most memorable player at that point.
It's not memorable, it's valuable. Generally, they're not doing you any good if they're dead. I feel like. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's more a matter of perspective.
Maybe I just don't understand Blood Bowl.
I have never been disappointed by a dead Norse.
Yeah, I have. Although linemen, most of the time you just don't even bother to use the apothecary on. Unless they have stat ups or maybe a double if you're late in the game.
Yeah, it's most teams you're not going to bother a line of. Just let them die with dignity.
Yeah, although elves are a little different since they're so expensive.
Yeah. That's a completely different story since every life is precious when you're an elf because every life costs $70,000.
Yeah, my linemen are 50,000, so I can just buy one pretty much after almost every game, especially if I win. All it takes is a roll of like 3 if I win to buy a new lineman, so not too bad.
Yeah, and you started off low, so you have a little bit of extra money in the bank. Give you a little bit of leeway for that kind of thing.
But I really need an apothecary, so that will be the next purchase. Even if somebody dies, especially if a lineman dies, I'm still going to buy an apothecary, because the journeyman that replaces him will be great line fodder. Journeymen being the players you get to bring your roster back up to 11 if you have players who are dead or missing next game.
In fact, it's not uncommon for some teams who don't really rely on linemen to just allow themselves to have journeymen, so that way it keeps their team value down.
Actually, Hexacord will have 4 journeymen next game, if I'm not mistaken.
What team is he playing?
He is playing Skaven. He just finished up a game against Lizards.
Yeah, Skaven are one of the teams where I don't mind having 3 journeymen on the line.
The problem is he has a Blitzer and 2 Stormvermin that are missed next game. So
that's a little bit more of an issue.
He's got something like, I think, 6 or 7 line rats. And then a thrower, a Stormvermin, and 2 gutters.
Yeah, Skaven rely on positionals. So that hurts
more
a
than
lot.
I think probably every other team.
Yeah, I would argue that they are the most reliant, especially on gutter runners.
Yeah, gutter runners are bullshit magic all at the same time.
Gutter runners are amazing, especially when you get a plus movement sprint gunner.
I played your team with those earlier, and that's not amazing. It's just boring as hell.
Also tragically boring, granted.
Because literally every turn you scored when you got the ball, the game was,
Yeah,
what, like 5-4 by the end?
yeah, 5-4. But yeah, barring a perfect defense or a blitz, in which case the entire line would shut down, it would be a one-turn touchdown. But y'all can look forward to that when you play Skaven.
So I moved my cage over here, trying to keep it moving up, and the goal was to get a push first and then knock him so he wouldn't be standing next to my cage at all. But that's alright, he's down. The cage isn't going to get punched unless they get blitzed. So again, just more blocks, trying to get some player advantage.
And the dead elf is nice.
Yes. I just murdered Colonel Hans Landa of the SS.
So Suds is our first killer on the team.
Yep, Suds McChud gets the first casualty of the game, which is also a kill.
A good omen.
And this is why you start with apothecaries, kids. As much as I wanted to have the positionals and stuff, it's really, really scary when you get blocked a lot and have 7 armor value, and you just like, come on, nobody die. Nobody die.
Yeah, when you have no apothecary, you're just hoping to God that you're going to be playing Skaven with no rat ogre or something that won't murder you horribly.
Well, the Sandcastle video, that Norse team that had 2 deaths, it took me 3 or 4 games to get those players back. I still don't think I have all the play. I still think I'm missing a lineman from what I would want.
Yeah, the problem with Norse is they tend to get absolutely destroyed.
Well, Norse snowballs really bad in both directions. Once you start losing players as Norse, you are at a really big disadvantage because armor value 7. And you can't dodge away, and you can't punch so well if you don't have as many players. And then, but the thing is, once you start getting an advantage and you have free players to give extra assists, you can do a whole lot of punching.
Yeah, outnumbering someone when you have Norse is really hard to stop because people start frenzying all over the place and you can't do anything about it.
Yep, and doing some more thinking, he's trying to figure out how he wants to get in the cage and all that sort of thing, and how he wants to mark him, which this is kind of like actually almost exactly what I did to him in the first turns of the first half. So he's trying. I'm sure he's trying to get me to score quick or make a mistake and drop the ball. Because if I drop the ball here, it's a pretty good chance that he's going to score.
One problem we may see here is that your cage is made out of frenzying individuals, so if you punch with both of them, they're going to end up spreading out and your cage is going to fall apart. So you have to be really careful about who you punch.
That is true. And most of my guys without frenzy are tied up marking linemen at the moment. So I kind of have to spend a lot of time trying to think about where I want to position. Because my thought here was, I'll run this guy down and I can push both the tackle zones off my runner with the frenzy guy. But as of right now, he's only getting a 1 dice block, so that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, you need to find a way to get someone next to 3. Fortunately, that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Thought about that, and I was like, wait a minute, there are a bunch of tackle zones in there.
Yeah, it's a pretty ballsy move.
And I fucked this up. I should have just blitzed 5 off of 9 and sent 9 down to do it, but I'm too dumb for things like that. Or, move 5 around for the assist on 9, and then run 11 down, but nope, I'm dumb.
Well, suboptimal play makes things more interesting, right? That's what you were attempting to show us.
Yeah. Although I think actually I had a good reason for leaving 5 there, because that way he can, if that elf stands up, he can potentially surf him. So here we go. Here's the chain push I was trying. And that's actually very good for me. And then here's what you were worried about, is me breaking up my own cage, throwing blocks.
Yeah, fortunately, you got a few bodies in between you and everything else, so.
And
But
more dodging. Without having to use a reroll. This is seriously like bashy elves against elfy Norse.
yeah, that's a little bit atypical, but when you got a weird kind of league status like this, you're gonna end up with a lot of really strange builds.
That's true. Everyone knew what the teams were going into the league, so. And everyone will know what my skills are, and will probably attempt to sabotage my skill votes to their advantage. So we'll see how that goes.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens when people start voting for someone they intend to play against in a few days.
Yeah. We'll see. And luckily for me, he failed the dodge, and everyone has blocks, so he's safe. You can only use 1 reroll per turn, so he had just used it. And again, he's used his reroll on the first couple of turns. He's got 1 left for the next 5.
He also has an elf standing right next to a werewolf in the sideline, which is not a good place for an elf.
Yeah, that guy's getting surfed. I don't even care that I'll probably get surfed back, because it will leave my guy standing next to the sideline unless I blitz him.
Well, with strength 4, he's even going to be hard to surf. You're going to have to dedicate some guys to it.
Yeah, that's true. He's going to have to put at least 2 guys over there to get a 2 dice block. Although, if he were to use one of his blitzers and just blitz him square, everything except a roll of a skull on one of them would put him down or surf him. So it would be as safe as a 1 dice block with no block. So trying to clear off all the tackle zones off my thrower first off, and more skulls.
Yeah, double skulls ain't going to help that.
No. And that one I didn't hesitate at all to reroll, because that's literally my first block this turn.
Yeah, if you didn't double skull that, you'd just give him the same turn over again, only there'd be 1 more guy on the floor.
Yeah. So now I figure I'll go ahead and use my blitz to get him free. So hopefully everybody can kind of run up and form a new cage up there, a little further away from all these guys down here. And just spent the whole, a solid time trying to figure out how I was going to move up the field and get this cage going.
The advantage is now you're starting to outnumber him. Serves, casualties, and that kind of thing. You can start to be a little bit more loose with things.
Yeah, going up a couple guys is really helpful, especially if you have the ball, because then your ball carrier, you don't have to try and double mark with someone else. Your ball carrier just exists outside of all the players that can mark him. And a waste of a double pow. Surfing is so good because it rolls straight for injury, but yeah.
You really need to stop doing that.
Yeah, that would be a double skull with the ball carrier, having already re-rolled a double skull. Yep. So now not only can he surf my Old Foreigner, doing so will actually put him in a good position to have guys on the ball.
Yeah, the only guy standing next to your ball is able to be surfed incredibly easily.
Yep. So, yeah, that's fun. And at least he got a skull there. So he had to waste his last reroll, because that's his first block of the game, or first block of the turn. And lucky for me, he only rolls stunned on the injury, so he'll be back next drive.
And he can't re-roll a pickup roll or anything like that now.
Yeah, he can't reroll anything. He's got 4 turns of only the rolls he makes. Which is a good place for me to be.
He's got AG4, but fortunately he doesn't have any relevant skills, so...
Right. No sure hands, no dodge. Nothing that gives him a reroll, so... But the ball is now just laying on the pitch with a couple of elves next to it.
But you have a lot of frenzy, and those elves are both standing 2 squares away from the sideline.
This is true. That makes life easier. But as of right now, I can only get one of them.
Yeah, unfortunately you can only blitz once per turn.
I don't know if that's so fortunately. Think about like chaos teams if you could blitz more than once per turn.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for you.
Beastmen would be ridiculous. And so now he's basically just setting up a quick cage because he's in a really, really good spot right now. I mean, he's only got one guy covering him down there, but he's, what, 4 or 5 spaces from the end zone with the ball.
What kind of... Is that a blitzer carrying the ball? Or?
Yep, he's got block too.
Yep, so the ball carrier has block, which means it's going to be hard to put down.
And he's trying to move some reinforcements down from the top, but failed the dodge, so... Alright, since he left part of it standing next to one of these guys, I'll just clear them off. Hornless concussed Beastman doing his job. And I think this is the only going for it I do all game.
So then he dies?
No, actually, it works.
Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I was expecting to have to use my reroll there. But luckily, it worked. And I punched the guy, and I get a pretty good scatter, actually.
Unfortunately, the ball is way in the backfield, and you got to move it up.
Yeah, I've got 3 turns after this to go get it to the other side of the field. So I decide that I'm going to go ahead and run that guy within scoring range. Oh, that sounds...
This is more traditionally an elf or a Skaven technique.
Yeah, but I really need a win. So, well, I don't need a win, but I would really like a win. And I'm up a player, so... that guy can just go along his merry way. And I'll just punch some more dudes on the way down there. And I realized after doing this, this was a bad idea.
Now he can mark that guy.
Well, because there's a single tackle zone gap that he can easily dodge through there. Between 3 and 10.
Yep.
And I started looking at this, I was like, well, shit. And the last block on that turn, it was one of those things that was just like, he's up there, it's relatively safe, I'm just going to go ahead and throw blocks, because I can.
Still relatively safe.
I'm not particularly unsafe, but I think he can still get a 2 dice block if he dodges both blitzers through the middle there. Which I think is probably his plan, since he's standing everybody up and then getting ready to do that.
Yeah, it appears he's making one last crash for the ball.
Well, At this point, if he knocks it loose, it's almost guaranteed that I can't get it down to the end zone. Just because 3 agility, no ball handling skills, and 1 reroll. So there's the first one through. And then here comes the second one on the blitz.
Thank God. Well, that makes things a little bit easier.
That makes things a lot easier. And the end of match imminent is when you have 2 turns left to score. So it's kind of like your warning, maybe 2-minute warning or whatever. But 2 turns is actually a really, really long time, or at least can be.
Or it can be a really short time, depending on how your game's going. Fortunately, he has everyone out now is out here in the backfield, so if you run up, he's not going to be able to put many men on the ball.
Right. And I was trying to figure out if I wanted to try and make the pass to him. Because if he makes that pass successfully, no one can even get near that lineman. Like, he would just be out there by himself. And that makes stalling really, really easy. So now I had to figure out, got to figure out who all to punch to try and get people free so I could go build some semblance of a screen/cage around him.
Yeah, fortunately all your guys appear to be in pretty good position. Although if you keep rolling stuff like double skulls, then we're going to have problems still.
Yeah. So I didn't have enough guys to make a full cage without a lot of dodges and stuff like that. So I decided that since the runner was close enough to make it in 2 turns, that I would run this guy back down and make it so nobody could get an assist on the runner. There is nowhere you can stand now around that guy while you're only touching him, so he's got to do a 1 dice block if he's going to try and blitz him.
Yeah, you're now far enough up where 2 turns is not a big problem.
Well, it's 13 squares to the end zone, and he's 1 off the middle, and he's got 7 movement, so he can actually make it to the end zone right now without having to go for it, provided he doesn't get pushed back or there's a line of people in the way or anything like that. And he's got no rerolls left. Got to make a dodge to even get someone out there.
Yep. All he's got to rely on now is his AG4 and 4 blockers.
Well, the blockers don't even do him that much good because block isn't really an offensive tool for him.
No, not when you got block on your side.
It's more of a defensive thing, so you don't use rerolls or cause turnovers so often.
Well, it can also be useful if you're playing against stunties or something who all have dodge but no block.
Right, but in this particular case for him, block is not an offensive tool. So puts a guy up there so my number 9 doesn't give a negative assist to his guy. Then is going to go for the 1 dice block with number 5, I think. At least that would make sense because he can dodge out, run around, and try and punch him.
Yeah, it's really best chance. Although I'd stand up a few more guys before I did so.
Putting guys on my guys, just hoping that I fail blocks or that he can, so that he gets a good scatter.
As often as you roll double skulls, that might be a reliable strategy.
That is true. Because I've rolled, what, 3? 4? Something like that?
3 or 4, yeah.
That's great fun.
Failed dodge.
Yep, before he even gets a guy to blitz on the ball. So this is a relatively easy 2 dice block. And the runner's getting away as quickly as possible.
And you still have a reroll left. Things go awry.
Mm-hmm. So right now, number 9 can't actually throw a block at him. He can go up and put a tackle zone on him, but so I put a couple. I kind of reverse cage him there, so he's got to either dodge. If he wants to get a tackle zone up, he's got to dodge through the middle of those two guys, which is like 3 dodges and 2 negative modifiers on the first one.
By putting guys on the field, you're really slowing them down because that subtracts 2 off your movement.
3.
Yes, 3. My bad.
Yep, 3 movement to stand up. And so now no one can actually throw a block against my runner. And, you know, I just thought I'd dodge for the hell of it. Because why not? It's been working for me all game. So now this is actually a very, very good spot for me for the first time, I think, in the whole game.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to lose at this point.
Because best case scenario, I get 1 tackle zone on my runner with guys in blitzing position to get him off. But with this being Blood Bowl, that can easily mean I lose the game.
Yeah, that is the most probable, actually, course of action.
Because we've talked about it now and jinxed it. I think he left one of those blitzers down close enough to the sideline where just in case something happened, he could throw it down there. But
yeah, well, he had Nell fall down and get knocked out.
So even though I have a reroll left, a lot of times here I would throw punches and stuff first, but I was like, no, I'm not going to even risk it.
No, not with the entire game on the line.
Not with rolling double skulls all the time. And Sven, the bestest berserker, is still Sven, the laziest berserker. He's had 3 chances now at a KO recovery.
Correct.
No, 4. Because he was out before the Elf scored their first touchdown.
Oh, really? Well,
yep.
Yeah. And now we see here doing the traditional line up everyone as far as you can just to prevent any one-turn shenanigans or blitzing.
Line up anyone that has any sort of value to the team as far away from the line of scrimmage as possible because he's got 1 turn left and I don't get a chance to punch him back.
So a lot of players here will just make 1 pass and do some whatever punching they can get off and hope that they get a few star player points off the last turn.
He'll punch the whole line of scrimmage down and then throw a pass with somebody. Normally I like to throw a pass with some random lineman that doesn't have any SPP because that way if you get an MVP, you get a level. But
yeah, or someone who's 1 from a level.
Yeah.
You can guarantee someone a level if you have someone like that.
Because I try and level my teams as quickly as possible. Like, I'll score with the same runner in the same game if I can. It's the first game. But this one was close enough I didn't really get a chance to do a lot of passing off or handing off or anything like that.
Here the event was quick snap, so he gets to move all of his players 1 over.
Which doesn't really matter this late in the game because he's just going to punch the whole line, throw a pass, and end his turn.
It's really only useful if you're trying to get a little bit farther around somebody.
Or a lot of times if you have a rushy, if you're playing a team like Skaven who will rush you in the backfield.
Yeah, it depends on your skill build.
But players will put... You don't want to put players on the line because that means they get punched. But if you put them 1 off the line and your opponent gets quick snap, that means they get punched. So it's kind of a threat of keeping players further back.
But he made his pass, so he got his 1-star player point.
Yeah, he actually decided to do that with the runner, which I thought was weird. Because the runner already had 3 SPP from a touchdown.
And so Nuffleheim has won their first game.
Mm-hmm. Now, it says I won a total of 70,000 here. And the first one said I won a total of 40,000. I'll explain it here in a second. But Thrower got MVP, so the MVP actually went for a level, amazingly enough. So did the MVP on Random's team go for a level.
So our thrower is our first to level.
Mm-hmm. And you see how my treasury is 60,000? I have not purchased anything since that game ended.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah.
And nothing interesting.
So the league takes your first roll and refuses to apply any modifiers, and rerolls don't matter for winnings. So here's the skill list of what he can take. He can get general and passing on regular rolls. And I'll talk about more what I think is good in the thread, but that's the video.